Pull up a seat, let your guard slide down. We're laughing, we're learning, we're holding you down. Welcome to the spill room, where the truth feels good and the vibe stays smooth. Lean in, tune in, let your heart make moves. Welcome to the spill room. You're locked in now. Let's get into it.
Happy Friday. Welcome back, guys. How is everyone? So to all of our listeners and viewers out there, we're really sorry, but Mary won't be joining us today. Definitely needs that. She's a busy lady who's constantly out and about doing her thing. Instead, today we have changed up our episode for something more exciting that we've been wanting to do for a while. We have a special guest that's coming on the show, and I'd like to introduce Patricia Cassaniti. Patricia is very well known in the safety industry. She has a foundation called Touched by Christopher. Patricia has a very emotional life story to share with everyone today. And her mission is to bring awareness for safety in workplaces, which for me, when I came across Trisha's story, I was instantly left frozen as to what this family has been through from a workplace injury that occurred. So we're going to let her tell us a little bit more about herself, her achievements. Recently won into, I think it was 2026, she won the OAM award for WHS. But I'll let Patricia run you through all of those achievements. It's going to be amazing. I know that Patricia's going to bring a lot of value to all of our clients in the safety industry. So to all of our contacts out there, please share today's story. Our mission in life to empower people to ensure that their families go home safely. And I mean, I think no one else can do this better than Patricia by sharing her stories. So, Patricia, welcome to the forum.
Thank you, ladies, for having me here. Obviously, telling my story and sharing my story is what I feel makes me cope through life. What happened to Christopher is totally unacceptable. I will never, ever accept it. And so for me, I found that this is what helps me get through the day, being able to make sure that Christopher left behind a legacy. He's not forgotten. Everything I do is in his honour. I hope that I can get in front of as many workers as I can to be able to shift that complacent mindset, to be able to get workers to think, before they do a job, if something isn't right, it just isn't. And they should step away and think about their families.
Right.
Because when something happens, families are the ones that
Suffer the most, yeah. So, Patricia, can you, I guess, for the audience and the listeners out there that perhaps don't know the story about Christopher, could you maybe touch on a little bit about that backstory and how it got you to where you are today to do these all-important safety talks and your mission for Christopher's Law?
So obviously, I've got 3 boys, and we were having probably one of the best times in our lives where families just settled. We were in the new suburbs, and so Christopher was coming up to his 18th birthday. So for us, it was a time of celebration, and he turned 18 on the Wednesday, and we went to work. I mean, I used to work in construction as a coffee lady, so we used to go together all the time. And one thing I'm really, really grateful for is that I got to spend every day of Christopher's last year and a half of his life together.
Wow. Okay, so that's amazing.
So I used to do coffee on that site, and that's one of my grateful things, that I did get to spend a lot of time with him in the last year and a half. And so the Wednesday when he turned 18, obviously I knew all the workers, so I hid a cake in the van because he probably would have been absolutely mortified, which he was. So I hid the cake, and I took the cake into his lunchroom after I'd done everyone's coffee. And I got his boss to go and get Christopher, and he was absolutely mortified. And he realised his mum,
Typical teenager.
I mean, I said to him, I said, look, everybody loves cake, you know what I mean? Take it easy. It's like, it's the 18th, you have to celebrate. It's such an important day. He was so looking forward to being 18. So looking forward to it. And
Well, it's their prime, right?
it is
Adulthood, they now become young men. They're ready
100%.
to let loose. Yeah.
And previously to that, I mean, we started going to the river, teaching our kids how to water ski,
Oh, wow.
and we didn't have a boat. So Christopher actually went and bought a boat for the family. He says, "No, I want to buy a boat. I don't want us to have to borrow a boat all the time." So now he needed a car. So on his 18th birthday that Wednesday, he took out his very first loan and bought himself a Hilux, which was one of the Hilux that was owned by one of the steel workers on site. Picked it up on Friday, was over the moon, absolutely over the moon. And then Saturday, he drove himself to work. And that afternoon, when he got home, we celebrated his 18th with family and friends. And the Sunday morning, he wanted to personalize his car. So he came up to me, and one of the things that he did, he looked at me when he woke up. He goes, "Mom, I'm so happy." He goes, "Now I've got my car to tow my boat. And, you know, it's one thing that I've wanted to do." And he goes, "Let's go to the market." So Sunday we went to the markets together, and he got like steering wheel cover, the seat covers, all the mats, deodorizer for the car, all these things, stuff to wash his car with. He was just over the moon. And so I looked at him. I said, "Tomorrow morning I'm not coming to work." I said, "You've got your own car now. You can drive yourself to work, and I'll stay home and clean up." So he woke up that morning. I slept in. Woke up really early, went to work, and at 12:20 p.m., a nine-storey scaffold collapsed and crushes him to death. It was a totally avoidable incident, and unfortunately took his life. He survived for 20 minutes, and his supervisor, Khalid, was with him at the time and actually was crushed as well, but survived injuries that are so horrific. He probably wishes he died with Christopher.
So Khaled's still living
Yes.
and he survived the actual incident. Okay.
But his mental health is shocked. That is shocking. I met up with Khaled after the incident, and in a way, I wish I never heard this information. But Christopher screamed out for me for 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
He says, "Trish, that's all that goes through my head. Is your son screaming?" He goes, "I don't care about the pain. I don't care about the fact I can't sleep."
So I guess that leads me to the question of, so you know, obviously undergone this extraordinary tragedy. Yeah, your entire family, the ramification. I would assume there's siblings, there's a father, there's grandparents, there's this whole collaborative now impact, and then you have a work site, which I'd imagine fellow co-workers,
It was horrific.
management, like
I was a mum on that site, so it was very personal. And it was just even today, 7 years on, I still get workers call me and say how much their lives have changed so drastically that then they'll never be the same.
I remember the story.
A lot of people do, and imagine being there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the scaffold collapsed because all the ties were removed.
Yeah, can you give us a little bit of, are you allowed to
Yeah,
share that with
sure.
everyone? So I guess this is an eye opener for
Yeah.
industries in general. I mean, in particular, we're dealing with construction at the moment, but this is not an alone case here. I mean,
No.
incidences like these, set aside a scaffold, but you've got forklift. I mean, we work with a lot of businesses, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to say we hear it daily, but it is happening way more often than what we'd want to hear, where there's workplace fatalities or major injuries, significant. I mean, minor or major, either way,
Yes.
it shouldn't be happening,
No,
right?
of course. Like, I mean, the thing is, everybody must understand that it's choices and decisions that we make that cause these incidents from happening in the first place. They're not accidents.
Right.
These are every time something happens, it's an incident waiting to happen.
So
Okay,
you're
because
saying they're a
they-
preventable incident rather than
they're all preventable.
accident as such. We call it an accident,
It's
or
not an
it's
accident.
an incident.
It's an incident. But it's about complacency as well. It's about ignoring it, ignoring our natural instincts of she'll be right. She'll be right is a natural instinct that a lot of people think it's just word. Not going to happen to me. Okay. Never happened to me, so
Yeah.
I'll be fine.
I've been working here
Well,
for 30 years and nothing like that's ever happened. Like, it'll be
do you know
fine
how
to
many
do that.
60-year-olds die
Yeah.
because of that attitude? And get injured to the point where they can't enjoy their retirement life because they've lost a leg
Yeah.
because of something they thought they did for so many years, and it's never going to happen to me.
So it's a
I
thought
didn't know.
process,
Of course
right?
it is.
It's
I
a thought
never
process.
thought that I'd send my son to work and he wouldn't come home.
Yeah, another way.
You know, how many times do we go to do stuff and we actually go ahead and go, oh, that could be pretty bad, yet we override it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just override it just to get it done.
Yeah, I'll just go up on that ladder even though it's unstable,
2 minutes.
and it'll be okay. It'll only take me a second. I'll be
2
right.
seconds.
Yeah.
I'll just got to quickly go grab
Yeah.
stuff, and people die. You know, in Christopher's incident, it was a 9-storey scaffold. It was 2 bays wide. And every tie to that scaffold was removed.
Was it removed due to a miscommunication, or
It was apparently they were starting to dismantle it. I don't know why.
so the
because it's
assumption
still-
it was going to come down?
well, there's bricklayers still working on it. so I
Because
don't
my
know why.
understanding was then bricks were put on top of this
They were.
scaffold, and that's what actually the instability of the weight because it wasn't tied. Is
No,
that
well,
what
there was
happened, or-
no tide, and then it was overloaded with 2 pallets of bricks on every level,
Oh my
making it
God.
18.9 tons over.
And Christopher just got very.
He was next to it. He was next to the scaffold. He wasn't even on the scaffold. And all they were doing, Carlin and him, were forming up a planter box for one of the units because the concrete company was coming that afternoon to pour it.
To do the pool.
So they're actually working through lunch to get this done. They're also in an exclusion zone, so they shouldn't have been there in the first place because there's scaffold next to them and bricklayers.
So you would require a certain area
Area
distance, yeah.
to exclude for workers because there's people working above them, right?
Okay, so do you, in your the findings, well, it's not really your opinion anymore. So this obviously went through a legal battle.
Yeah, so the findings were no time, 18.932 tons over limit.
Overloaded.
Christopher being in an exclusion zone. If it had happened 15 minutes earlier, probably 35 workers would have been
Would there at the time. Everyone had gone to lunch
Everyone had
except
gone
for
to lunch.
Christopher and his supervisor. Wow. When we talk about preventability, because obviously in this issue I'm seeing alarm bells, who do we put this responsibility back onto? So would this come back
Everyone.
down to
Everyone.
not seeing things? Should there be more management walking around? Do we
There
bring this
was
back to management?
a safety walk that morning.
And in that safety
and they
walk, they missed it. Totally missed it.
I had a worker come to me 4 years after, and this is really sad because he was a rigger, and the way he got to me was basically my youngest son was driving Christopher's car, and he was at the shopping centre. It's got all the signage on it. So this guy ran up to him and absolutely bawling his eyes out. So you can imagine my youngest son. He's just what
Just been confronted.
on
Yes.
earth? Why are you crying? And he said, are you Christopher's brother? And he said, yes. Because I really need to speak to your mum. So he, at the seconds before the scaffold collapsed, was actually climbed over onto a hoist and was taking photos of the missing ties so that he'd go and
So he was going to go report the incident.
to say, hey, this scaffold's got no ties on it.
Oh my God.
And just as he took the photo, the scaffold collapsed behind him.
See, that's just insane, right? So you now had moments, had someone been, and can you imagine he has to live with that too now?
Scaffolders themselves, a few hours prior, stood in front of it and said, what the hell is going on?
And what about
Why-
who loaded? Why?
Yeah.
What about when the loading?
builder
Shouldn't there have
loaded
been a pre-check?
It's not allowed. No materials are to be loaded on any scaffold at any time.
Right.
The rating on a scaffold is 675 kilos per level.
Right.
Just have bricks on it.
No, it's not made from it.
So it wasn't even meant to be
materials.
holding the material to start with, and someone's
No.
loaded and what this.
And the thing is, like, you know, the scaffolders that were in the judgment and were named in the judgment, they're the ones that actually spoke up and said, what's going on? Why on earth is all this material on the scaffold? It's been collapsed. Their own leading hand said, she'll be right.
Oh.
Right.
Now, you got to imagine, I'm not vengeful. I'm not a vengeful person. I know these people. I knew them. I made them coffee. Every single one of them. For me, no one goes to work intending on killing someone.
Yeah. It's not intentional.
It's not intentional, okay? And it hurts me because as angry as I am so angry, and my rage is, and this is probably why I do what I do, because I need to get this rage out by making it good.
Yeah.
Okay? All I can think of is imagine their lives. Imagine what they do now, knowing that they made a decision that killed my son.
Yeah.
You live with that.
Yeah.
This poor guy that went to take the photo, he was the first one that jumped down as soon as the scaffold collapsed and was the first one to my son.
He's the first
He
responder.
saw my son, and then the police came and pulled him away. Now, he thought that he could have done more. He could have saved my son. So his PTSD was so bad that he would get boils on his face and he would scratch them off.
Oh my God.
Now, as co-workers, they're expected to go back to work. He was sent back to the same site 3 months later.
So there was no handling. So there's also, now we've got that ramification. So the handling of how you're going to be dealing with this consequence on mental health in the workplace after a tragedy like this.
It's huge. It's huge. But the thing is, it's ignored.
Yeah.
And that's what I care about, the co-workers who witness horrific things. You don't go to work expecting to witness someone dying in front of you, having a tragedy happen. We all go to work for one reason. Okay, and this is the biggest sentence that I will say. One reason. We go to work because we have to,
Exactly.
not because we choose to. You may be the owner of this place, but it's still a job. It's still a job. You as the owner, or whoever the owner is, it's still a job for them.
Yeah.
Okay? We come here to earn our money so we can make our lives and the lives of our family better. Full stop.
And
That's where it
there's
stops.
little choice in that anyway. I mean, it's survival.
If you don't work, you can't
You
survive.
can't survive.
The thing is, we have to stop risking our lives, to get that job done, no matter what the situation is. Okay, because every work instant, even in an office, can be hazardous. Because I can tell you now, you can do a proper, like in a massive office, and you can do a walkthrough, and I'm sure you'll be able to
You'll always
hazards
find
all the
something.
time.
Yeah.
There's electrical hazards. There is people climbing on swivel chairs to go and grab a book because they can't reach it. Simple things like that can kill. Will injure you to change your life forever. For what? A job?
For a job,
Right.
yeah.
A job?
Sorry to interrupt. The day we was I don't know what you would call it, a long rod
Yes.
that fell from, they're on
my
the
Lord.
30th story,
Oh my Lord.
30 stories, fell from about 4 flights of doors. This guy's standing down hard out, full pain on his head. And he's bleeding, whatever. They rushed to get first aid. A couple of days later, he's back at work.
But see, the thing that gets me, I mean, we're obviously in the industry, right? What is surprising me, so we walk sites, we go around, so whether it's for an environmental, whether it's safety, we're in talks constantly with, WHS and safety, or SHEs and coordinators, you name it, heads of safety, give them all the fancy names we need to give them. And what I'm, I guess, surprised about with what I see is that I genuinely feel things have changed in 25 years that I've been in the industry. So I see the march forward. Where I'm still surprised is that I see sometimes at the bottom there's a push, but I feel like there's also a money issue going
It's
on.
always money.
So budgets that are set out for these businesses to create this change. So I know you talk a little bit about that in a moment with your, wanting to change the laws and the push for your safety talk. For me, I see it's a budget issue because every time we get asked to do a walk around or can you help us with this? And then the minute, you're proposing, okay, well, this is what needs to be done, or the change, oh, yeah, well, the budget.
Yeah.
So do we have a problem where I feel we have a government, are they supporting this as well? Because, if we had a government that perhaps assisted businesses a little bit more in terms of funding,
They do. I
right?
mean, the government does give funding
Who?
to
Well,
businesses. They
please
give
tell me,
small
because
grants,
yeah, but
very small,
hang on a minute.
not big enough.
They're not
to
big enough to support.
do, but they do. They bring out these these small grants, like $1,000 on
The
safety
$1,000 one,
equipment
I've
or
seen
stuff
that,
like
but
that.
how
You know
many
what I
people
mean?
know about that
They
though?
don't.
Because I'll tell you
This is
now,
the biggest problem with government, is that it's say enough. They
it's
don't let people know. Okay, and that's my biggest gripe with government, because even when we changed the law, industrial manslaughter, how many people knew about it? And so
this is what I'm worried. It's the awareness. So it's this grant. This is what I wanted. I intentionally brought this up
Yes.
because I had a phone call from New South Wales Services where some businesses were apparently trying to get this rebate, $1,000. So it's only a small business grant.
Yeah.
So you've got to be under a certain company spend to be able to even get this rebate, right? This was just in the last 6 months. We had a phone call and somebody was trying to claim an invoice that we had apparently sold them PPE, which we hadn't sold, and they were checking it. So what had happened is there are people out there obviously extorting this grant. And I was like, what grant are you talking about? Right? This sort of raised my eyes. And she goes, yeah, there's a $1,000 cashback if they spend on safety. And I said, and who knows about this grant? Because we're a business.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have done some socials on it so that we could create awareness.
Correct.
Where is this awareness? Because if this is out there, then why can't they access it? Companies are going to be able to have a lot more to be able to
Small
access.
businesses and sole traders, they're not on LinkedIn. They don't sit on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And because that's where Safe Work will put their,
Well, I didn't
their
even
grants
see them.
in, right?
Right.
They don't do social media to do with
Yeah.
work. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that's where this type of information comes from. But I don't think the government has got so many issues. I mean, one of the biggest things that I have still been pushing, and 7 years on now, is Christopher's Law.
So
Still
can you
not.
tell us
It's
a little bit about Christopher's Law and what you're trying to
So
push?
Christopher's Law, first it started with all different things about safety at work, and it had several sentences. But then I said, no, it needs to be condensed down to one. Now, I know when something happens, is it Jack or Tom, someone that got stabbed in Queensland, and they got Jack's Law. They're in Queensland, so that now the police, it's Jack's Law. Police is freely able to go up to any person and search them.
Yes, so search to make sure they're not carrying a knife.
Right, without having to have
A warrant.
a warrant to them. Okay, so there's that. Then there's this law. There's that law. There's I can't remember the names, but there's always a name associated to it because someone.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still fighting for Christopher's Law,
There's no.
and all I want is based on the hierarchy of controls. Okay, in safety, the major one is remove the hazard. Okay, for me, Christopher's Law is removing the hazard by ensuring that every scaffold nationwide has anti-tampering devices fitted,
Okay.
so they can't remove components.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems that scaffolders have, or scaffolding companies have, with builders and stuff, is that the workers go in there and they start taking components off, and obviously the integrity of the scaffold is altered. The scaffold is built and engineered, and it can't be touched unless you're a scaffolder. But too many people still take it upon themselves to remove these components to make their work life easier because it's in the way or whatever it is. So if anti-tampering devices are put into place, and
So make them mandatory.
mandatory, not a choice, mandatory, so that no one, and falls from heights is one of our biggest killer.
Yeah.
Okay, in any industry, falls from heights. It's usually from a scaffold or whatever it is, because someone's removed a handrail or kickboard or whatever it is, and they've fallen through.
Right.
So it's about making sure that everybody uses these anti-tampering devices. And that's what I'm still pushing 7 years on. And I wish it wasn't so hard.
And how do you go about doing that? So is that sort of a step that you're taking, campaigning and
Campaigning,
getting
getting
other
yeah. And, you know,
And what do you think the holdback?
money.
What's the resistance? Again,
Oh,
comes
money.
down to money. Yeah.
You only have to buy one.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you know, scaffolding companies make their money on the hire. Buy it, be it part of the hire where when it's erected, those it just pays itself off. You know what I mean? It's just another part of the scaffold. It's simple and it's removing the hazard, yet not being made mandatory. It's only a suggestion.
Yeah. So it's a recommendation.
100%. We do have anti-tampering devices out
So
there.
it's now down to choice again. So we're coming down to,
Yes.
oh, well, it's not legislated. Because we get that answer a lot. Oh, well, that's not legislated. So we
No.
don't have to do it.
No.
So
It's always
okay.
about time and money, right? So there's another incident, a lady who in South Australia, she lost her husband in an EWP. So he was by himself, and EWP is those lifts, those
Yeah.
personal lifts that you sit, you stand in. They're not sure whether he pressed the wrong button, but it lifted all the way up, and the bar choked him because there was no spotter down there to bring it back down. He could have easily been saved if there was a spotter there.
Why isn't this?
Because it costs money to have two people doing one job, right? So she's been pushing for this mandatory spotter, having all the controls to be the same on every EWP so that people know when they're trained that if they go from one EWP, they go to another one, and that there's always a spotter. The government, because it came also as a recommendation from the findings from the coroner, the government decided that it's choice. So if the business can afford to have two people at the EWP, they can.
It's outrageous.
It is. So it's up to the company to pay the extra wage for someone to stand there and watch. This is what happens, and this is where these things are factors on injuries, factors on death. Now, since the time that her husband's died, so many more have died.
So it's not like it's a one-off
way.
Yeah, wow.
And she said, when are you going to do?
Yeah.
When? Now, that's my fight. We have falls of fight with number one killer. When are we going to put Christopher's law into place and making mandatory anti-tampering devices on every single scaffold nationwide? And there's no common sense. And I've always said this, there's no common sense in government. It is always about time, it's always about money. People, sometimes they ask me to come to work to their job sites. Now I charge for my speaking to become my full-time job.
This is the Let's Talk About
Let's talk about
Safety.
safety.
Yeah.
So with Let's Talk About Safety, I travel all around Australia, and it's completely word of mouth. So there's several times that I've seen that I've been named Australia's largest voice in safety. I'm never going to give up. I will never give up in my life. I will always make sure that the next person who hears me speak can have that change. If I can't change people when I talk to them, I don't know what will. Because I'm as real as I can possibly get. I can shift mindsets to make sure that the next time they go and do something that's right, they actually will stop and they will evaluate.
But I mean, ultimately, one, you're saving lives. Two, what about prosecution? I mean, businesses would certainly have to start realizing you don't want your workers to not go home. Like, I don't understand this
But you also think
mindset.
that even just me being there and speaking to workers and changing that mindset.
Yeah.
Now, we have new laws in. A lot of people don't even know we have industrial manslaughter in place, which it doesn't really come into action until about October this year. The thing is, when Christopher died, and the reason why I pushed so hard for industrial manslaughter to come in was because it took 3.5 years for me to actually find out what happened.
Oh, yeah.
It was torture. I was taken into a separate room with the prosecutor, and the prosecutor sat in front of me and said, "Mrs. Cassaniti, you're not going to like what you hear." but we don't have a law in place that holds anyone culpable for your son's death.
Yeah.
So that was the outcome.
Yes, no one was culpable for my son's death.
So there was no result.
Fine.
There was just a company
It's just
fine.
fine.
There was no physical prosecution against
No.
whether it be
A
a
person.
business or a person.
There was two people that were prosecuted in the event, and that's the builder. The builder was charged first, and they got a Category 2 offence, which at the time was $1.5 million.
Mm.
As soon as you plead guilty, you get a 25% discount.
Oh,
So that discount gets taken off any penalties, being whatever it is, and that's across all criminal. So then they put things in place, so they get a further discount. Yeah. So 1.5 went down to $900,000.
Oh my.
So the builder got charged for $900,000 for the death of our son.
What amount of money
I
is
know,
going to change this part? Yeah,
$900,000
but yeah,
no,
yeah.
definitely.
for a big builder. Okay,
Yeah.
they had insurance in place,
Yeah,
so the insurance paid for the penalties. So there's no skin off their nose. I'm left to the life. Same happened with scaffolding company. They got charged $2.2 million, and there's $3 million from a Category 1. They pleaded guilty many months, years after, because they kept saying not guilty, not guilty.
How are they not guilty?
But they were finally charged, and again, the insurance company paid for $2.2 million. Now, people think that I'm $2.9 million richer. Please know that those penalties do not go to the families. They go to Safe Work and the government. Once Safe Work finishes, then the family is able to go into a civil case. Don't risk your life to get a job done, because the only people who are going to suffer is you if you actually survive your injuries and your family. But if you die, your family, because 7 years took them. 7 years, okay, of absolute hell, to the point where I have to say, hang on a minute, why am I on trial?
Because
Okay.
that's what it would feel like, right?
Exactly. So my message to every single worker is, doesn't matter if you own the company, the CEO, the manager, the project manager, the leader, superintendent, I don't care. Worker, whoever you are, it is a job. Stop risking your life or the life of others or injury to get a job done. Simple. Okay? If we have a voice, and if we stop feeling that we're going to get victimized for speaking up, things will change. For me, it's to encourage every single worker to say no to unsafe work practices, to feel that they can be comfortable by saying no when they're not feeling right. Okay? Because as soon as you don't feel right in your job, you know about it. Because there's butterflies in your stomach, there's voices in your head, but then there's this override where complacency will override what you know is safe to do in the first place.
And I would assume it's all the pressure.
I said, one guy came up to me and said to me, Trish, if I speak up, I'm going to lose my job.
I just do not understand how
Yeah.
this is still happening in today's
It
day
is,
and
it
age.
is still happening,
is
and
crazy.
it is absolute insane, because I said to them, okay, because he said, if I speak up, I lose my job. Who's going to look after my family? Who's going to look after my mortgage, my bills, if I lose my job? And I just looked at him and I said, listen to yourself. Who the hell is going to look after your family when you die?
And who's gonna do that anyway
I
if
can
you're not
tell you
here to do
now,
it?
there is no government help. There's no government help out there that helps families financially or helps them through mortgages, getting kids off to school when your partner has died, and it's usually a breadwinner, right? There's a death benefit that comes if you're only in workers' compensation. If you're a sole trader and you don't have workers' compensation, you don't get that money. You get nothing. You get nothing. Okay? A lot of people don't even realize this. They think that stuff happens at work, you'll be looked after. No, it doesn't. Okay. And this is why I kept saying, stop risking your life for that job.
Yeah.
It is not worth it.
How many talks are you currently doing in a week? About 4. So 4 businesses a week around Australia. Yeah. Do you think that's enough?
No, I've not even touched the slides.
Yeah.
I've not even touched the slides. I speak internationally as well. So I've been to New Zealand, I've been to the States. I've spoken, everywhere, but it's something that needs to be done. I know that when I speak, things change.
And the other thing that I'm finding as well is that, since COVID, prior to COVID, there was this big shift happening where companies were really keen to get people on site. Let's do, whether it's services, whether it's talks and everything. Now they're sort of going backwards again,
They
I
have.
feel, and they want to do everything internally, not using the expert advice.
Yeah.
That is a problem. Because with the changeover as well in industries, like the revolving lounge, like 1 minute we've got a supervisor, the next minute, 6 months later, they've got somebody else in place. I'd like to know, how do they get to keep up with the expert advice to be able to deliver their talks? Like, it's all well and good to rock up on a Monday and go,
Yeah.
hey guys, don't
They've got to
forget.
stop thinking about budget when it comes to safety.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a budget when it comes to safety. Because I can tell you now, when an incident actually happens, it actually is going to cost you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, with the new laws, we've changed the laws. Now, industrial manslaughter, someone dies at work,
And you are found guilty without reasonable doubt, you go to jail up to 25.
Yeah, whoever's deemed responsible for the death. So that could be a supervisor.
The supervisor could be a worker.
It could be another worker.
Okay. The thing is now also corporations are up to $20 million
Okay.
instead of 3. So the consequences and the penalties are way higher, which were needed. Okay, without consequences, no one really cares. But the WHS law has been strengthened that now, even if you attempt to do something that is deemed dangerous, that could possibly injure you or kill you,
So
it is a
potential.
prosecutable event,
Okay.
even if something has not happened.
Get you.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is the new law, and a lot of people don't know that. So if an owner puts a worker at risk to get a job done, the owner's going to go to
Get
jail.
it. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so it doesn't have to happen. No injury, no death has to happen.
Yeah. So all it's going to
It's
take
the
is someone
action.
reports in the action and says,
The
or they
action.
might have, left the business. And I can see a lot of that's probably potentially going to happen, where people have
Well, you've
left
got to be caught.
disgruntled.
You have to be caught in the act.
Yeah, but I can see that happening. That
Oh,
if you leave
100%.
disgruntled because you knew it was unsafe and it nearly potentially happened, and you have enough evidence.
Got
This
evidence,
is just going to start a new, shift in the way businesses have to think as well.
If you won't do it yourself, you shouldn't ask somebody else to do it for you. Okay, if you know that is risky and could possibly injure you or kill you, why would you ask somebody else? Always think, would I put my teenage child in front of this situation to get this stuff done? Or would I go, no. No one should feel that they're unsafe at work all the time.
Do
And
you
if they
feel that your message is getting across with all the work that you're
For the
doing now?
people that I speak to, yes. The people that I reach, it has shifted people, yes.
I know I've mentioned that you were coming on a podcast. Everyone knows the story.
Everybody knows, especially in construction, everybody knows that they understand, because I bring the reality. So when they hear, and obviously my talks are quite confronting. So they're not, I don't sugarcoat them.
Misunderstand. During my talks, I show 2 videos. One is a reenactment of the moment my son gets up that morning to the moment that he dies.
Within that reenactment, there is choices, decisions that were made that day that cause the scaffold to collapse. And those choices and decisions are made on a daily basis on any given day for any given project. We are complacent so many times a day, we don't even realize that we're being complacent anymore because we have ignored our natural instincts.
Well, you and I were even talking about earlier before we started filming about even the trucking industry, and what we're seeing constantly on socials. Because both Patricia and I do follow a couple of people.
Yeah.
And there's one gentleman who he's a force to be reckoned with. I think he's really trying to promote all the
He's a
utilities.
retired
truckie.
truckie, but he gets a lot of intel on things that happen. So
Don't even-
every single day he's posting
Fatalities or major instances in the
trucking,
and we're seeing driver fatigue, inexperienced drivers out on the road.
No care on the road, but also no care on the actual trucks themselves. Maintenance.
Like
Yeah.
When we go out for training, how many times have we told them, like, you need XYZ on your site? Nah, Doesn't matter.
Look, I think what I see there is that there's such a mixture of companies out there. Look, honestly, there's a pocket of businesses that I would put, I call it the 6-star rating. I mean, we deal with some really big business and they're incredible. Safety is the utmost priority for them. And when you walk into their business and you look at their LTI, their LTIs are 0 in 365 days.
Yeah.
It is everywhere you look. Up, eat off the floor in these transport warehouses. That's how number one they are.
Yeah.
But then you've got this middle, I call it the 4-star rating, where there's workers there that are really keen, or they've got the employment around WHS and they're starting to do that. Then there's budget.
Yeah.
Then money comes into it. And then you have this
don't care.
the bottom of the pit.
I had to go to the airport to go and pick up a parcel, and I had to park. So I'm driving through this compound where there's big, huge trucks everywhere, and mind you, customers are allowed to walk. There's no designated
walkway
for cars to come in, for customers to park, to go into the office to pick up this parcel through customs, right? And then it's like, oh, well, you've got to go and get the parcel. I'm not in high vis. And I looked at her and I said, you want me to walk across the compound? I know that there's a walkway up these forklifts going everywhere, and you do, I'm on my high vis, you want me to go to that door to pick up my parcel? I said, wow.
Yeah.
Really? It's pretty bad.
So there's still a lot of them saying it's still out there. It's still out there.
Well, people don't realise these kind of things will cost your business a lot of money when something.
Well, you've got potential jail time now.
Yeah.
You've got potential bankruptcy by the sounds of these fines of where they're
Bad
going. Bad reputation. Why would you want a chance?
I don't know. And a lot of people don't realise, especially small businesses, especially.
That's what I was getting at.
Don't realise they need to safeguard their businesses. They don't realise that they have these laws in place.
Do you know what's scary as well, though? And I feel for small business because money is an issue, right? Because between wages, superannuation, I mean,
it's never
I'm an owner of a business. We know what that's like.
It's never ending.
It's never ending. So it's really, this is where I was trying to get back in my message earlier. I really feel the government needs to step up to help these small. I mean, look, I'm sorry, big business, they've got no explanation because they're outputting that back to the customer on these jobs, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're at a different scale there. But when it comes to these small businesses, like I said, tell me what $1,000 is. You're lucky if they can get, and they don't even know about it anyway.
No,
like I said, we didn't even know. Otherwise, we would have helped promote it. But the thing is, what is $1,000 going to get them? A couple of pairs of gloves? Like, honestly, because the gear's not cheap.
But I'm always going to say this: safety is everybody's responsibility. It's the individual.
But how can a worker afford? In some cases, what I'm saying is, if they need to implement, hard hats, this, that, so it's going to come back down to the business.
Yes, and
you know what I mean?
And if even that, they've got to do it anyway, regardless. But you can be on the most safest flights.
Yeah, still choose not. And still choose to do it wrong.
Like I'm an ambassador and safety ambassador on big T1 jobs. Okay, so those workers have heard me speak several times, and the minute I do my walks, because as an ambassador, I do one-on-one with workers, I do groups, I do workshops. So I'll go to a business and I'll walk the sites and I'll stop the work groups and we have a one-on-one chat. The minute I enter these sites, you see these workers scurrying off to their toolboxes to go and get their glass.
Yeah, I know.
And I go to them and I go, why'd you do that?
So they know they should be doing this.
It's like, you're supposed to wear glasses. On these T1s, you have to wear glasses no matter what. As soon as you're out of your lunchroom, you must put your glasses on and you must have your PPE on. And they're working ahead doing all this kind of stuff, and then they go and put their glasses on because I've just walked on site.
Yeah. Just to tick a box again.
And I look at them and I go, wow, okay, just explain to me, why did you just do that? Because I walked in, I'm watching you.
Does it make you feel better that just because
it's not my eyes. It's your right. You hurt yourself, okay? You're the one that's going to live with that pain. You're the one that's going to possibly lose your eye because you've decided not to put your eye protection on because, oh, they're too uncomfortable. Hello, your responsibility. The company's providing you with these PPE, okay? And if you lose them, there's more at the office where you can get 2 pairs, okay, and have them.
It's not
all the
like it's
time.
not readily available for them.
And they choose not to wear them.
Yeah.
Okay. Whose choice is that? Whose problem is that? It's not the manager. It's not top down, not bottom up. Okay. It goes both ways. It's choices and decisions we make as individuals. The choice is yours. Individual. My message is to the individual, not to the management. You choose.
You can make the choice to get in the car, drive every day. It's the same thing. You go to work, you put your gear on, you do the right job. Like, yeah, it's the same way.
But and you just hear instead of all that safety crap.
Yeah.
The attitude.
The attitude, I always say, do not roll your eyes at safety because safety ensures that you get to go home to your family.
All those all this safety stuff's really big now. Like,
And unfortunately, it
That's
comes
just
to
being
that
a person.
choice.
Yeah,
It's a
that's the
personal choice, okay? And then something happened.
Mm.
Oh, but management.
Yeah.
Whoa, hang on a minute. Hang on a
It's
minute.
very easy to
Okay?
just keep pointing the blame.
Who ends up in front of the curly wig?
Yeah.
Management.
Yeah.
Even though management said, here's your glasses.
Yeah, or they've got their SOPs.
These your protocols. Here are your swims. And then you go against it. This is where I draw the line. Because when people say, I'm sorry, but it's management, I go, sorry.
No.
Because if I tell you to go jump off the bridge, you're not going to do it.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
Think about the choices you make. Think about when you are feeling unsafe and when something isn't right in you, you need to step back and you need to say something because the first thing that you need to think about is the consequences that come if you do choose to do it. What could possibly happen? Because we don't think that way. Okay, we don't put that into thinking. When I speak, I can tell you now, I burn.
Yeah.
I burn into people's minds. That I've had workers call me months after to say, "Oh my God, you saved my life today."
Yeah.
Because they've thought about it.
Because they've thought about it. They've thought about the second step when they're having that should be right moment, and have gone to speak up and say, "Can we fix it?" Because you know what, your family's waiting for you at home.
Exactly. Can I ask, what does the Touch by Christopher Foundation do to support that families? I've done a little research by way.
Yes. So Touch by Christopher started in July 2019, a few months after Christopher died, because I was overwhelmed by the support I got from the community. Christopher's death was very public. I had media outside my house for 2 weeks. It was, I assume, about 600 people came through my house just for support, bringing food, groceries, all sorts of. I had total strangers never seen in my life.
I'd imagine your mindset would have been numb
Oh, it was,
and how
was
you
like-
would not be able to work. You wouldn't be able to function.
my house was full.
Yeah.
My house, there was no chairs. People were standing in my house, and I'm sitting there going, "What the hell has just happened?" So a few months after, I said, I have to give back. So I started Touch by Christopher, and every time I'd go to do talks, I would ask for people to donate towards the foundation. Now I give any family who suffers a loss at work, who has someone, a loved one, go to work and die, we provide them with 3 months worth of groceries, pay any outstanding bills they have, and also $5,000 towards any mortgage or rent if they're still paying mortgage or rent. Just for the first 3 months so that they can
Process.
process and grieve without the everyday burden. If the breadwinner has died, the money
How are they gonna-
stops. I've had women come to me to say that they've paid for groceries and their card has been stopped. So they can't pay for it because they're the additional card holder. When you die, the bank freezes all your money. Anything that's got your name on it, it's frozen. You can't get access to it. And you know what? If you're under workers' comp benefit, 9 months. It will take minimum 9 months for you to actually get the death benefit from workers' comp.
Mm.
It is red tape after red tape. Now, how on earth, if you are a mother with kids and you still have to take these kids, you've got to grieve, you've got to deal with lawyers, safe work, deal with the fact that your partner has not come home from work, you are now alone, you need to raise these children on your own, the money has stopped, and life still has to continue. There's no government that's going to come in and say, oh, we're sorry for your loss. We know you have 3 children and they still have 10 years of schooling to do.
Here's the money for 10 years of schooling. Just deal with it. If you lose your house, tough cookies, tough cookies. It is absolutely horrific what families go through. So,
As a foundation, I can only do 3 months. I can't even afford to go national yet. We're only New South Wales.
my plan is to go national and to increase how much we actually give each family, but also be able to provide them with similar EAP services as businesses give to their workers, have our own EAP services that go directly to families. The hand on the shoulders we had, yeah. When Christopher died, I got a list of psychologists and counsellors to speak to. I called every single one of them.
No one was available for 6 months. So what do you do? Like, what do you do? Your whole life has just collapsed around you. You don't have access to counseling. You don't, nothing's working. Nothing's happening. It is mind-boggling. I'd like Touch by Christopher to have its own services, to be able to go and provide these services to these families straight away, right? Then we have
financial services such as credit mediators. So whoever the person who's died, they got leases on cars and stuff like that. There's credit mediators that can actually fix
and get rid of those debts so they're not left
with the
behind.
family, yeah.
Do you understand? So all these services to provide them with groups that they can connect with like-minded people who've lost loved ones at work. Losing someone at work isn't the same thing as losing someone when they're sick or they've gone out and they've died in a car crash, because of the fact that no one should ever go to work and die. And that is one thing. That's why Touch by Christopher exists. For me, I've got so many different initiatives in place to raise as much money as I can so that I can go national. Because I do get phone calls from different states wanting help, and I can't help.
and we have an average of 220 workers die each year.
In New South Wales, the average is around 40 to 50 of those. So we have to cover those families, and it's difficult. And so I have small initiatives for people to get involved. They can either become Christopher's mates, where they can donate $10 every month or whatever it is, or more, whatever they want to do. They can do a one-off donation on the Touch by Christopher website. Companies can. I've asked this once, and it's the 1% campaign. And I thought, 1%. What's 1% of your turnover? It's less than a credit card fee. Okay, credit card fees are like 3 to 4 5%. I'm asking for 1% of business turnovers to put in to Touch by Christopher every year. I think it's not much to ask for. 1% is nothing. It makes such a huge difference for families. The whole committee, none of us get paid. Okay, we do this voluntarily, and all the money that we raise goes for families.
Our minimal costs are the website, the running of website. We try to keep those as minimal as possible. If we need to get someone in to help us, like with social media and stuff, we'll find a sponsor
to pay for that, so that the money that we raise is
For
purely
admin.
for family. We need help. We need all the help we can get. I mean, 1% is not much to ask for. And, we just recently had Australia's biggest barbecue, which was one of the most successful we've had so far. So more people need to know about it. Australia's biggest barbecue is done in April. It can be done any time of the year, but we're going to push it in April because April is significant. It's Christopher's anniversary on the 1st of April, and 28th of April is International Day of Mourning, where we commemorate
any worker who went to work and died.
It kind of ties the two together, and also stops businesses for that 1 hour or two to have a chat about safety. Everybody loves a barbecue. Everybody does barbecues on any site, So why not dedicate one of those barbecues to Touch by Christopher? They're easy things that I ask for. And I just wish that people would come on and really support something that is working. We're not like every other charity. Okay, we are unique. We are the only charity where we actually give money to the recipients. There is no other charity in Australia that does this, because other charities give items. So if you're missing a fridge, they'll give you a fridge. If you want furniture, they'll give you furniture. If you're needing clothes, they'll give you clothes. They'll give you service, but not money. People in these situations need money. In my situation, I wasn't ready for a funeral.
Yeah.
I'm not at an age where I'm going to die. I never thought that I'd bury my kids. And it's like, hello, you're hit with these expenses that you think, well, how am I going to afford that? You know what I mean? A funeral is not cheap. And a lot of people don't even realize that you can get $15,000 from your super as well. That covers your funeral expenses. And no one tells you that. No one says these things. And this is why Touch by Christopher is such an important foundation, because it does more than help families financially. We help them lead into this realm that no one wants to be in.
How do you find out when, so for New South Wales, obviously you're focused on that at the moment. How were you led to know? So how do you get reached out?
Yeah, before we were having issues getting to the families, because the only families are the ones that would end up on the news.
Yeah, how would you know about it?
Not everybody ends up on the news.
Well, I think we need more businesses out there to step in, step up. I know Super Spill have done that. We're monthly sponsors of the foundation. As soon as we heard about it, we're 100% on board, and we're going to advocate, because we really want this to work. But I'm getting emotional.
I know. A lot of people don't realize how important it is. I get to meet these families, and all I can do is give them my lived experience. I prepare them for what's coming, and it's one of the worst things that we get put through. I just hope people understand how important Touch by Christopher is. We're not just another charity. Our secretary lost his son in a workplace incident, and so the committee that I have and the directors that I have in mind are very closely involved with what we do. So, and that's why they volunteer, because we are a true charity, not a charity that we know will come across so that we can pay people.
Of course.
So
we're going to have to wrap it up now. I think
Yes.
Patricia, I'm sure, has got a lot going on, and we've all got to get back to work. But again, thank you so much. Sorry, I got
No
emotional.
problem.
Oh,
That's all right.
I knew it was going to get me eventually. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Thanks. I hope it does something to get your word out.
Yeah.
I think whether it's 1, 10, 100, something's got to change and get that happening.
It needs to get out there. And this is what I said to you. We still have followers.
Yeah.
A lot of the listeners are gonna love hearing the story and get emotional, and like we all have. But it was beautiful to actually hear you and have you here.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for thinking of me as well. So much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up for Friday today.